Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And tomorrow night, Chelsea heads to the Emirates to take on Arsenal in a big Premier League clash. The Blues having dropped to 12th in the table now, Arsenal having lost top spot from City after they beat Fulham yesterday 2-1. So there's a lot riding on this game. Chelsea lost all 5 games under Frank Lampard. Arsenal not won in their last 4. So there is still a lot to play for. Arsenal are still in that title race, despite what a lot of people will say, myself included. But let's get right into it. I'm delighted to be joined by AFTV's Lee Judges. Lee, thanks for coming, mate. Really appreciate it. How are you feeling as an Arsenal fan right now? Because I'm sure at the start of the season, the expectations were come May that you would have no chance of being in a title race. So to still be in one, is that you must be pleased with that?
Yeah, listen, it's mixed feelings, if I'll be honest. At the beginning of the season, if you said, look, we'll be in a title race, I'd have took it, But what's happened over the last few weeks, it's obviously disappointing. It's tough to take. Not so much City last game, look, they can beat anybody and do what they've done to everybody. But it's the manner of a couple of results. Looking at the Liverpool game, I look back at that now. Yeah, it was Liverpool, but we probably should have went 2-0 up. We should have seen that home, especially when you see like them losing 3-goal leads against Tottenham. Come on, so that's a little bit disappointing. But obviously the West Ham away game when you're 2-0 up and cruising, and then the Southampton at home, bottom of the league, 3-3, and really not being in control of that game, I think it's been really, really disappointing. But yeah, it is what it is. You just, I think at the end of the day, we've done well this season, but there's always going to be that little bit of disappointment. And I'll be really honest with you. If we'd have, say, lost to Man City and then we lose to Newcastle and they go and win every game of the season, I think it's a little bit more, you could take it. But it's been a little bit tough because you know that there was an opportunity there and we've missed it, So, but in saying that, as we were talking off air, it is good at this moment in time that up until these last couple of weeks, Arsenal have been like a pleasure to watch, travelling around knowing that you're going to watch a good game of football and they're going to win games of football has been good. So at the end of it, it's definitely mixed feelings.
I mean, Arsenal played phenomenal football for such large parts of this season. Like, what do you put it down to? Like the last sort of few games, as you referenced, being 2 goals up at Liverpool, being 2 up against West Ham. Like a lot of goals are suddenly being leaked. I mean, do you put it down to? Do you think it's a coincidence that the defensive kind of weakness has occurred since Saliba's been out, or do you think it's a bit more than that?
Listen. He's been a massive loss to us. When I first see him in pre-season season, I actually said, this kid's a game changer for us. He just gives us something a little bit more. He's got everything to his game. But we were leaking goals anyway before when he was there as well. So it was the setup of play. And if I had one criticism of Mikel, that would probably be it. Once he lost Saliba, he never really tinkered with it and made sure that we protected the back 4 a little bit more, maybe put someone else in there. We sort of left ourselves exposed and all that. So I'm not saying it's all down to Saliba missing, but it's obviously been a big part. And yeah, I think that, you just can't keep conceding goals. If you look at Arsenal over the course of the game, it's like going into this game with you guys. You haven't scored for ages. I guarantee you'll score against us because you will get chances against us, and that's the thing that's been a bit worrying for me, is that we dominate possession and play really, really well, but we've always given up a few chances. But we've been outstanding this season. I think that I'm going to be really honest that somebody said the other week, in April, the game, the league changes. It's a different league in April. Pressure comes on. Teams battle a little bit harder or whatever. I don't know. But I do think that pressure has got to us a little bit. You know what's riding on it. I know it sounds silly, but you're playing against a team where you've got to win. They're not necessarily going to win. It's like when you play teams like West Ham and Southampton in the last couple of games. A point for them has been as good as 3 points for us. Do you know what I'm saying? Every point is valuable. So, West Ham was celebrating that point like we would have done celebrating the win. I get that, because that point probably is enough to keep them up, especially when you look at it now. You get a couple of defeats, like, and all of a sudden that point that they got against us probably could save them in the league. So everybody's fighting, everybody's battling that just that little bit harder. And I think that the pressure of it all was maybe just got to us a little bit, like, which is understandable, like, especially when Man City continue to keep winning and winning and winning, and over the last few weeks they've been winning 4, 5. But I was disappointed yesterday with the game yesterday, because Fulham went out there and were so much more braver than us. Why? Maybe because there's no pressure on them.
I mean, I almost look at it from a Chelsea perspective, like looking at that City Arsenal game, and I was obviously at the Brentford game, so I didn't really see it live. But for me, more disappointing is the fact that you've got going into that City game, you're not in a position where if you lose, you're still in control, kind of thing. Like, I would almost say that despite the City defeat being massively disappointing, the draws to your Southamptons and your West Ham are actually going to be proved more costly than losing to Man City. Because any team, doesn't matter how good you are, can go to City and get taken apart.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We've seen it time and time again. Like I look at it and I think the West Ham and Southampton results are so much worse than that Man City one. Yes, the City one's the big one and what everyone goes on about, but ultimately, like, you wanted to be in a position where you go into that game. Yes, you're not going in there wanting to lose, but you go in there knowing that a defeat isn't the end of the world. Whereas a defeat now with those draws is kind of, whilst you're still only a point behind or 2 points behind with having played a game more. It's very much an overall feeling of it's done.
Yeah, 100%. And what also that does is those games before just knocked our confidence a little bit. We weren't as confident as whatever. Listen, I believe and what we should have done, if we'd have beaten Liverpool and seen that game out, I think we'd have won the next 2 games. I know it sounds strange that we needed, as much as we was riding our luck and digging in and whatever, if we could have just rode our luck and just dug in and got a 2-1 win, I think that would have given us confidence going forward. But that just knocked our confidence a little bit. The West Ham game, I don't think you can have any sort of excuses for that. 2-0 up, cruising. You know what it's like being a Chelsea fan. Chelsea going to West Ham, it's hostile. When you silence them after 10 minutes, job done. You know what I mean? Like, they can turn very, very quickly, West Ham, as you well know. But we give them encouragement. And then what was the worst thing about that is when it went, I know we missed a penalty. If we scored that penalty, that's another decisive moment, of course. We would have probably gone on 1. But when we went 2-2, we never opened them up again. And as you say, the Southampton one, it was really, really tough. And now, you're hoping that Manchester City are going to slip, which, if you can't do the job yourself, it makes it a little bit tougher. And now we go to Chelsea, and Chelsea are not in great form, as you well know. But if I'm a Chelsea fan and a player, I'm thinking, well, Arsenal were vulnerable at this moment in time. If you're going to 3 or 4 weeks ago, wouldn't have feared Chelsea whatsoever. I'm not saying I fear Chelsea now, but I feel that you'll score, and it could be this is the perfect game for Chelsea to get their first win, if you know what I'm saying, under Frank, So, and it's going to happen somewhere along the line. You cannot keep losing games of football, so it'll be an interesting game. But listen, if Arsenal would have won their couple of games and maybe even lost to City, I think I'll be going into this game a little bit more excited than I am now.
Mate, you say we can't keep losing games. I've been saying that every single week. We just keep losing. I said when Lampard come in, we weren't going to win a single game under him. And I don't want to be right. Of course I don't. But I just can't see where any wins come from. We're that bad at the moment that you just can't see where a win comes from. You can't see where a goal comes from. No one was asking for miracles when he come in. We knew that it wasn't going to change. And we know, despite his legendary playing status, that reality is he's not a good manager. We saw that at Everton. We saw that. Their first spell at Chelsea was good in the first season. Hazard gone, transfer them and get top 4. Great. But he's not really a good manager in terms of tactics-wise, patterns of play, etc. They're not there. I'm not expecting to see a massive transformation from when Graham Potter was here. but things are really shit, and they still are. Like, nothing's changed. You could even say that we're actually worse in terms of we seem to be creating a lot less chances. No one really knows what they're doing. They're just like, we're not even doing the basics right, and that's the worst thing. I know 10 games is such a short space of time when the games are coming quickly. There's not a lot of time on the training ground to work on tactics. You got 30 plus man squad, you got one pitch, you got 11v11, there's another pitch, there's 9v9, you're training with different people all the time. But these aren't excuses, these are just the reality of the situation. Like, it's a difficult situation to come in, but when you're not an experienced manager and you're, in the politest way possible, you're not a very good manager, that makes it even harder. And the only difference is that Lampard's not getting the pelters from the fans because of his playing status. Anyone else in this absolute uproar.
Listen, look, from the outside looking in, it's a good appointment from that point of view because, you know, he is a legend. So you're not going to really want to criticise him too much. I get that. But realistically, is it his fault? No. You know, it's an absolute shambles what's gone on at Chelsea, really, if you from the outside looking in. Far too many players. Why that was allowed to happen, I don't know. And it must be difficult. I've got a smile on my face, but it must be difficult for Chelsea fans to comprehend what's going on because they're not used to it. They're used to winning. They're used to having quality managers, quality players. They've still got quality players in there, but you have to look at it. Of all the money that Chelsea has spent, and they have spent a lot of money, to not get a striker in is unbelievable. And I don't care what anybody says, you know, whether it's Frank Lampard or you've got Pep there. If you've got a team without, you know, it's like cutting a roast beef with a blunt knife. It's going to be tough, isn't it? Like, you know, and so I do feel, for Frank Lampard. Look, listen, he done a fantastic job that first season for you, and you know, but Chelsea's a different team to manage from that team because I think when you look back at that, you had youngsters coming through, and that was his sort of remit, and he was very, very good at that. But then once you got that pressure of superstar players coming in and things like that, and the pressure of what Chelsea are about, it's very, very difficult, you know. And the same with Graham Potter. Like, you know, I look at Potter and I think, like, you know, like he's a very, very good manager. Is he a Chelsea manager? No, he's not. And if someone on the board doesn't realise that, you know, that, I fear for you going forward in the future. Like, but if they get someone like Pochettino, then it's a different thing. But you can only be listen. I can only say this, you know, for experience. A manager is only as good as his players. Yeah. You know, look at Arteta. Like, you know, when he first came in, we was down where you are now, being mocked by everybody. But now he's got the players that he wants. Things change, you know. So. Yeah. And the good thing is, I think Chelsea are always, like, you know, whether you like the owner or not, I don't particularly think it's very good him going in the dressing room and that and things like that. But if he can win, get Pochettino, he's going to back him with a bit of money because it seems like they're prepared to spend. It'd be very, very interesting what's going to happen with Chelsea over the next sort of couple of years because under Abramovich, you know exactly what you get, exactly what it was going to be. And I'll be really honest, if you was a manager under Abramovich and you lost 3 games you
were done.
Yeah, you're done. You know what I mean? Like that was it. You know what I mean? Like, now that's ruthless, but that was the remit of what Chelsea were about. And whether you like it or not, you know, that was it. And it was successful. You know, like Chelsea. You know, no one likes Chelsea because Chelsea have been successful. That's the reasons, you know, that people don't like football teams. There's no other reason.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it, mate. I mean, I look at Chelsea, I just think, like, the sooner this season ends, the better. Like, it can't get any worse next season. Like, for Pochettino, you got to look at it. Anything when he does eventually get announced, which it looks like he will do. It's not quite done yet. Whatever they're taking their time, no problem. Want them to get it right. There's been a lot of wrong decisions so far. So this next one's really important, even at an early stage of this ownership, to try and get the fans back on side because a lot of stuff has been going wrong. But there is the foundation for something good at Chelsea. There's a lot of very good, talented young players. Yes, you can make the point that it seemed a bit stupid to bring that many new players to the league in January to an already bloated squad. It's like it's really tough, and it puts Graham Potter wasn't really good enough, but any manager in that situation, I feel, would have struggled. And you just think, we've got to just start again at the end of the season. Allow the manager that comes in to get rid of all the players that don't want to be here and aren't good enough and aren't part of the plans. If you've got 2 years left on your contract, you don't want to sign a new one, gone. See you later. I don't care who you are. These guys need to go. You've got to get players that want to be at the club, and you've got to get players that want to play. I don't care about names or anything like that. If you don't want to play for the club, that's the number one thing. You've got to want to be here, regardless of how good you are. And I think that's where you come into attitude problems in the dressing room. We've seen it at Arsenal, senior pros like Aubameyang. I don't know Aubameyang personally, but obviously Arteta's made a big decision there. The captain, very good player for Arsenal, scored a lot of goals. But that's probably really helped you getting rid of him. I mean, Lee, Aubameyang coming back, he's not really featured much of Chelsea. We saw him get a half against Brentford. He might feature at the Emirates potentially tomorrow night. Is he in for a good reception?
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. I don't really, because he went against Arteta. So very, very much with the Arsenal fans, is whatever Mikel does is the right thing. Listen, I would never boo him and things like that, because he was a great goal scorer for us. That's the thing about Aubameyang. You know what I mean? As you probably know, he's not got the greatest hold-up play and everything like that, but he can finish. He's a goal scorer. It's trying to find where you can fit him in. And Chelsea will probably find that difficult, as we probably did towards the end. Where actually, if he's not scoring goals, you don't really contribute that much. You know what I mean? So it's a tough one. But unfortunately, he won't get a good reception. He didn't Stamford Bridge this year. You know what I mean? I thought it was a little bit hostile for him, but that's how it is now. It does happen. I think with Chelsea, looking back, what you're saying about Chelsea there, I think there's some great points you make. But I think with Chelsea, I think that the owners have got lots of players in at this moment in time, because maybe over the next couple of years they know that you've got to go. The fair play comes in, so it's got to be, you've got to get them in now and get them ready, and then get someone like Pochettino. And that's why I was a bit funny with Potter, really, because I think that it was always going to happen. If you knew this was going to happen, you was going to bring in all these players and everything was going to be really hard. No one can manage that. No one. And I felt that was probably if that was the one you was going to believe in having, then you should have stuck with him. But I fear for other teams now if you do get Pochettino, because I think that he can bring in the players that he wants, young players, build it like he did with Spurs. You know what I mean? And have that little bit more backing with Chelsea than what he did at Spurs. I think he'd be very, very successful. So I think it's a good appointment now. Chelsea. Chelsea have got loads of players there, which they're going to which you have to sort out. That's the thing now you got to do, sort that out, and keep the players that you want. Because Chelsea over the last sort of 10, 15 years have been there and thereabouts. You're used to Chelsea challenging. Listen, from an opposition fan and seeing Chelsea where they are
must be delightful.
It's delightful, when he was giving us stick, enjoy your finish and things like that. Well, absolutely loving it that where Chelsea are now, And listen, that's only because it's jealousy, you know what I mean? Yeah. In my life growing up, Chelsea were never really a challengers and whatever. It's only since Abramovich has come in, and as much as you don't, what's the word, maybe don't agree with what's gone on, who wouldn't want Chelsea's success, you know what I mean? You all want that success and things like that. I love Arsenal to win the Champions League, of course, and win more Premier Leagues and everything. At this moment in time, from an Arsenal fan, I'm just happy that we're in a title challenge. But that won't, in a year's time with you guys, that's not going to be enough. Chelsea now have set a bar under Abramovich that I don't know if you'll be able to get to again. You know what I mean? But it was a nice ride while you had it, wasn't it?
It's a tough one, because you look at the standard, certainly for myself and a generation of Chelsea fans, as you say, all we've ever known is winning, and then the default reaction to going on a poor run of results is get rid of the manager, get someone else in that can win. And now this is a new ownership, it's a new era, it's going to be a different Chelsea. They want to buy into this more long-term thing. If long-term really exists in football, they want to buy into that. They want to give a manager time to build something. And ultimately, the cuts have been great, but you want to win the Premier League. Like that's the ultimate goal. Yes, the Champions League's great. Yes, the FA Cup's all right, and but the league's the bread and butter. The league is what you want to win. It's what you go to every weekend, traveling up and down the country. You want to win that Premier League, the best team in the country, over 38 games. We've been nowhere near since we won it under Conte. Nowhere near. Not been involved in a title challenge once in the last 5-6 years. We're nowhere. So if we can just I think for me next season we're not going to get any European football. Like no chance. We're going to be playing once a week. And that is a time to get a lot of practice on the training pitch. And that is a time I'm not saying we're going to challenge for the title, but we've got to be minimum. We've got to be in the top 4, top 5, I think, for next season. So I think 5th now gets Champions League next season, if I'm not wrong. So top 5 to try and get Champions League and try and win a cup. That's got to be the aim. But it's going to be a long road. This might not be a 1-year thing. This could be a 2. This could be 3-year thing. We've seen Arsenal down the doldrums for a number of years. We've seen United go through difficult periods. We've seen Liverpool down in the dumps as well. Like big clubs go through difficult periods, and it's not always a year. It could be multiple years, and that's got to be the fear for Chelsea fans. Is that yes, things aren't going to be as bad next season. You would think that's virtually impossible, but to expect that we are definitely going to finish top 4 next season is unrealistic, particularly when you look at the strength of the Premier League now. Liverpool won't be this bad next season. Newcastle will push on again. Arsenal will strengthen again. They're now back in the mix. There's a lot of good teams. Tottenham, as much as we hate Tottenham, they surely won't be as bad again next season. They're always there or thereabouts. So do you know what I mean? It's gonna be tough. But mate, just last couple of things to wrap up. Obviously, Chelsea and Arsenal have done a lot of business over the last few years, and that. I mean, what are your thoughts on Jorginho? You took him from us in January. How's he done? Because he was a player that kind of split the fan base at Chelsea, very good in a specific setup, and with his skill set, he's very good at what he does. But at other times, he can be very limited as well. But did you look at that as a good signing, and are you kind of happy with what he's done?
Do you know what? When he first came, he done really well for us. Really well. The goal at Aston Villa, or the own goal at Aston Villa, he come on and give us that little bit of experience. But I think he's been underused in the last few games and not really been used at all. And I don't really know why. Every time he sort of come on for us, he done okay. He's never going to be the great sign that's going to take us to the promised land, but he was a good squad player to come in with a bit of experience. So it hasn't quite worked out as I thought it would, to be honest. I thought it'd be decent for us. But he's, last few games been very, very limited. And I find that very, very surprising, So, it's typical Chelsea signing for us. You don't really give us any decent ones, do you?
Mate, you give us the better ones.
Well, you've done all right out of us.
Well, maybe not Aubameyang, but Ashley Cole.
Well, yeah, I think we definitely, helped you. Got a little bit of a payback there, but we've give you Ashley Cole, Fabregas, and you've give us Willian, and him, but he ain't been too bad. He's not been a disastrous signing for us, you know what I mean? You make a good. The thing is for Arsenal as well, where we went out of Europe, where I think he would have played a little bit more, and we was playing that one game a week, And I will say this to Chelsea fans, you know what I mean? When you go through a bad time like you are, and it might be 2 or 3 years, I promise you this now, that when you start winning again and you start doing well, it's so much better.
Yeah. You appreciate it more.
You appreciate a little bit more. A lot of Chelsea fans are arrogant and whatever because they've not had that. They've not been humbled, you know what I mean? Because you've been I know some Chelsea fans, you know what I mean? It's 20 years, they're in their teen. They've what's this losing every week, and they can't handle it, you know what I mean? And but all of a sudden, if you start winning again, you'll appreciate it a little bit more of what it's like, where the old school Chelsea fans probably do. Yeah. And let me tell you, going into Europa League and all, I want to get in the Champions League, get in it. It ain't all doom and gloom. No. I quite enjoyed the Europa League experience and all that,
It's all right. It's actually all right. And plus, as I was saying before, because the Premier League's so much more competitive now, the Europa League, winning it gets you a Champions League space. Arguably for a decent side in the Premier League, that can be an easier route into the Champions League for the following season than actually trying to finish in the top 4 or top 5 in the league. So, it does get a bit of a disrespect, but actually, I think it's got, now that Champions League space is there, it's got a little bit more value to it. And yes, the Thursday night in the group stage, let's be honest, it's shocking. It's not great. Champions League group stage, it's not great either.
Great.
I mean, I'm going to miss the European games next season for sure, but You know, it's probably in the long run, it's going to be. I think it will actually be more beneficial for
It benefited
us.
Arsenal. It benefited us, like, you know, because it meant that you can get your, as you said, we've made a great point there. You're training like a lot more, so you can get a lot more done on the training field and all that. You're not playing and all that, like, you know. So listen, you know, we're back in the Champions League this season. Am I excited about that? No, because like you know, it's for me, it's more money, more travelling. You know what I mean? And,
Bayern Munich again.
But well, this is it. You're going to play things like that, and also like you. I don't know how you feel about it because you've been in the Champions League a lot. There's a familiarity of the teams.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You know you're going to play like Real Madrid again, which was exciting when the first time it comes round.
well, we've done 3 seasons in a row now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It ain't got the same thing. Like we used to play Barcelona every year, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't the same, you know, so you go to different places and all that. Like, so listen, it's not all doom and gloom like down there. I can tell you that now. Like,
Mate, last thing I just want to touch on Mudryk. Obviously a well-pronounced saga in the January window. I quite enjoyed the drama of it. It was like a transfer sort of thing, like no other I've seen for a long time. It was kind of mad. Ultimately, we end up getting him, big fee. He's done all right. To be fair to the kid, like I was up at Anfield when he came on for his debut, 15-20 minutes. He looked electric. Didn't quite happen for him since. Young player. You need continuity, new country, etc. All these things, like, it's difficult. But he has looked better in the last few games. Each time he's played, he's got better. I know it's obviously early days, but are you disappointed you missed out on him? Or do you think, actually, do you know what, maybe we've kind of slightly dodged on there, Trossard coming in, we can spend our money elsewhere? Or would you have quite liked to have got Mudryk?
not really. Look, for that price, no.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, if I'll be really honest, you know what I mean? He was never going to come in and is he going to come in and replace Martinelli? Is he going to come and replace Saka? No, not at this moment in time. So for that price, it might have caused us a few problems. If we'd have got him for a good deal, you know what I mean? You take good players. Listen, there's no. I've got no doubt he's going to be a very, very good player for Chelsea. Listen, from his point of view, you know, I don't think he wanted to go to Chelsea, if to be honest, at this moment in time, at that time. But the deal coming, he couldn't turn it down. So he's got to get his head around that. Once he gets his head around that, once he starts, as you say, playing week in, week out, which he will do under Pochettino next season, I think, like, you know, and once he's settled down and all that, you've got one hell of a player there. Paid over the odds for it, but you know, sometimes you have to do that to get those players in, like, you know. So I've got no beef with him going there, really. I think at the end of the day, from my point of view, you know, I think that we're a club that's got to be realistic with prices and things like that. And I think if we'd have actually signed him, it might have upset the apple cart with other players. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, Saka have been going, well, I want what he's got. So like Martinelli and all that. So from our point of view, not too bothered either way. Like, you know, I'm not one of these players that then doesn't want to see him be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, if he's successful, he's successful. So I don't wish him a bad career because he chose Chelsea over Arsenal or whatever, like, you know. So, and I've got no doubts that he'll be a top player, like, so. But you know, you can't expect a kid of 21, 20 years of age and whatever to just come in when it's you know, when it's like it is at Chelsea at this moment in time. It must be difficult, you know, carnage there in training at this moment in time.
Mate, guys getting changed in the corridors and that. There's not enough space in the changing rooms. Like, it's mad. And like, I think people underestimate, particularly for someone like Mudryk, who played for Shakhtar Donetsk, Ukrainian league. You know, the Ukrainian league to the Premier League. People underestimate this step up. It's levels. There's levels to that. Like, it's massive. And, you know, it's not just coming for the football. It's everything else. It's leaving a war-torn country. It's like new language. It's this and that. 100%. It's like, it's not just the football. Like, it's everything else that goes with it that so often gets overlooked. But Lee, last thing, mate, score prediction for tomorrow night. You need a win. We need a win desperately as well. What are you thinking?
Well, I'll be very, very disappointed from Arsenal point of view now if we just like get over the line to second or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, and what we've got to do now is dust ourselves down and start and try and win these next 5 games. And actually watching the Fulham game against Man City, like yesterday, doesn't give me hope. I'm not saying that Arsenal are going to win the league, but what it does say is that you know, that they could slip up. Now, from our point of view, if they do slip up and we lose to Chelsea and Newcastle, we'd be very, very disappointed. So we've got to go in this game very, very positive. I'm gonna say Arsenal are gonna win it 2-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw.
Yeah, the only thing I can hope for is a 0-0 draw. Like, I think the only way we're going to get anything is if we just park, mate. If we just park the bus and hold you out, that's the only way we're going to get anything. Like, we're so bad. I've watched us so much this season. We're terrible. So, I mean, the Emirates would be a great place to start. Obviously, Lampard has won there a couple of times. Also been humbled a few times at the Emirates as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, Arsenal could do the double over us as well. So that's never ideal when that happens. I'll be honest, I think we'll lose. I maintain that we're going to lose every game. We're not going to win a game under Lampard, so I've got to stick with that. I think we'll lose 2-1. Maybe I'll give us a little bit of credit for a goal, but we'll probably lose 2-1. And yeah, we'll
I'll take that. I'll take
yeah, take that. Lee, thank you so much for your time, mate. Massively appreciate it. If people for some reason don't know what you do or where to find you and stuff, where's the best place for them to check out all your stuff?
Obviously AFTV and also Lee Judge's TV, you know, so over there, like, you know, and if you do come here as a Chelsea fan, I promise we'll be nice to you.
Guys, I'll link all that stuff in the description. Make sure you go and check all those things out. Once again, Lee, thanks so much for your time, mate. Guys, remember to smash a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in another video soon.